Bloomsbury put a white young person on the cover when the main character was black, and through the internet, even though she complained, but through the internet and through all the blogs, literary blogs, Afro-Caribbean and African American blogs, it was changed. It's unheard of. The hardback was changed in the US. You know, so completely hear what you're saying, and at the same time, there are specific things that are going on. Sometimes we have to come back to again about access, again about marketing, but also I think there's, you know, everyone thinks that there's an issue about roles and responsibility, because it does concern me, even on The Guardian, about how they manage the responses on their site. I don't know, you know, how these websites and blogs are actually moderated. I think that's a huge issue. Lester, thank you.
You made the remark about, which I thought was unfortunate, maybe you didn't really mean it, but being black is not a predilection or a condition. And it was the issue of racism and black and ethnic minorities that was raised. But the point I want to make is really, it's not quite making a plea for mass media, but making a point about the role of mass media, which is to provide a forum where things can be shared. And the digital age brought in niche markets and the splitting of television markets, for instance. And what everybody's talking about now is splitting it even further to the individual. Now, no bad thing about that. 15 years ago, in the Philippines, they could get 1 million people on the streets just by SMSing. You know, they could deal with false stories about avian flu in Egypt by sending out SMSs. Great, that messages get across. But there is a point about having some sort of, I'm not sure whether central is the right word, but some sort of shared forum where we can influence people and be influenced. And the thing that worries me is we haven't really dealt with the other aspect of the challenge of this evening, which is whether or not people are just talking to themselves. They're talking to like-minded people. And it's no good having a voice if all you're doing is talking to yourself. And I think that's really been addressed.
Okay, thank you. So talking to yourself rather than talking to like-minded people. Do you want to respond to? Is that any way?
Yeah. Well, I'll respond quite quickly. I think this technology is value-free, in that, as I said right at the beginning, what it enables is everybody to be a publisher, everybody to have a voice, and you can't describe. You know, the internet doesn't have a point. You know, it doesn't. There is no point to the internet, and you know, it's not meant to bring people together or split people up or anything like that. It just reflects what happens, and it reflects the fact that everybody in this room has different interests and different beliefs or whatever at different times of the day, and in different times of the year, and different times in society. And so, you know, a lot of the time people hark back to the time, you know, when 22 million people watched the Morecambe and Wise Christmas special in 1977, and, you know, and where everybody read the same newspaper and everybody had the same national debate and all that sort of stuff. I'm increasingly suspicious of this sort of nostalgia for mass action or a mass conversation, because they don't always turn out very well. You know, I don't want to sort of. There have been many times when everybody taking to the streets and doing something has been a very good thing. That's very true. But there's also been many times in history where everybody taking to the streets and doing the same thing has been a very bad thing. A very bad thing. I'm not going to sort of Godwin the evening by mentioning the obvious things, but you know, it's a very bad thing. And so this idea that you know, oh no, everybody's got individual choice and everybody's following their own individual interests apart from every Saturday night when they watch Strictly, is a bad thing. It's actually, I think, fundamentally wrong. The fact that everybody is now free to go off on their own interests and connect with like-minded people, no matter what those like-minded people may be, is actually an incredibly positive thing for society. Now, the fact that some of these people will be doing and thinking the same things that you disagree with, well, tough, because that right is also the right that enables you to go and do the things and talk to the people and all that stuff about the things that you agree with. It's that, you know, human rights have, you know, a dark side as well, and we've just got to embrace both things. But to say, well, it's a bit of a pity that we're no longer gathering in the streets and smashing windows. Well, you might not be smashing windows for the right reasons. So I think we're actually in a good situation.
I don't think the G20 protesters would agree with you, but
no, true. But
yeah.
Bristol Nat was really nasty. And without, if you're talking about mass action, you at some point you also have to say, well, the BNP is, the Nazis. It's a very fine line to say, well, it's good for us all to get together and fight, protest at the G20, but the same right and the same, mindset also allows people to do bad stuff.
Wow. Yeah. Say something. Sorry, yeah, and then Vicky, I'll come to you. Well, you want to?
Talking about Kristallnacht, I think it wasn't like that. It wasn't like any other thing. It was organized, and the regime was sponsoring it, and it wasn't people who came together because they have the same idea. They were like militias, so it wasn't like that. It's different from people agreeing on a specific idea and doing the same thing together.
Yeah, well, that's my point. The fact that you can get together and be individual about it is much better than saying, no, we're going to go for...
Wait, you want to bring Vicky?
Yeah. Sorry, I was just going to take a different point on what you were saying earlier about that people do are starting to become, certainly over in time, seeing only things that they want to see and being much more personalised. But actually, I think what we need to do to help with that is, like at the moment, talking, for example, I mentioned earlier about the Equality and Human Rights Commission. They deliberately wanted to engage in online media and social media to get into, to reach those people that aren't necessarily engaging with the organisation at the moment for whatever reason. And so actually I think what we need to do is just be a lot more smarter about it in future in terms of working out how to get in front of those people as we get more and more personalised about what we want to see. So we need to find new and innovative ways to get in there to actually engage with these different audiences and get our messages across in whatever form that is.
Okay.